Please support the bar by subscribe, and sharing my cast. Follow my social media at Facebook, Instagram, Gab, Parlor, BitChute, YouTube, DLIVE, Twitch, CLOUTHUB, and Rumble, or join my Subscribe Star. Make a donation by clicking on the links on the description box. I am a listener-supported show, so any of the above is greatly appreciated. Help me grow and spread the truth, since the mainstream media obviously does not want to support truth. All links are listed on the description box. God bless you and enjoy.
Welcome to the Speak Uneasy, a safe space where cancel culture does not exist, because we are in a different prohibition era.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Speak Uneasy with your host, the bartender. So for tonight's random read, it's going to come off the book of James, chapter 5, verses 13 through 20. Prayer avails much. Is any among you afflicted? Let him pray. Is any merry? Let him sing psalms. Is any sick among you? Let him call for the elders of the church, and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And if he have committed sins, they shall be forgiven him. Confess your faults one to another, and pray one for another, that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Elias was a man subject to like passions as we are, and he prayed earnestly that it might not rain. And it rained not on the earth by the space of 3 years and 6 months. And he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth brought forth her fruit. Brethren, if any of you do err from the truth, and one convert him, let him know that he which converteth the sinner from the error of his way shall save a soul from death, and shall hide a multitude of sins. Once again, that random read comes from the book of James, chapter 5, verses 13 through 20. Prayer avails much. And now my take on it. Oh boy. Okay, first off, let me explain something here. So on my travels back to my home from California, I usually take an Uber ride. And just bear with me on this. I'm not veering off this random read at all. Now, the first thing that hit me on this random read is that my driver's name happened to be James. And on top of that, I usually like talking to my Uber drivers, just to get just to have friendly conversations and get to know who they are, because I like to do that on a personable level. I'm not a social butterfly or anything like that. I like to just talk with people just to get to know who they are and possibly turn them into Christ through regular conversations, of course, not by force, because I am a true believer in Christ giving us free will. But I love to talk to people whose ears are open to listening, and to even give it a thought of even walking that path into finding God. So as I was in my Uber ride talking with James, and it was a very nice pleasure meeting James. And if you're listening, James, I am so glad that you and I have met, and I know that was not by accident, my friend. And it's funny how this random read today, it happens to be the same name as your name. So as I was writing in the Uber, we started discussing about God, and come to find out, James was also a man who walked the same path. Who I can say that as far as our minds are, we have the same thinking as far as the walk of Jesus and the path of the righteous. Not to say that I am righteous. I am just saying that we both, our minds kind of are alike when it comes to God. As far and I don't know about anything else, but to me, having that mindset about what we think God's path is, we can pretty much say that we are kind of on the same. I mean, we're on the same path. We have the same mindset, and it was a very great conversation. I enjoyed as much as I was tired in the, because I work midnights. I get off work. I went straight to the airport, and I just hadn't slept, and I was so tired. But even in that ride, that conversation, getting to know James, as far as our belief in God, it was an amazing conversation. It was a very amazing conversation, and I'm going to keep thanking him. I'm going to keep thanking him for meeting him. And every time I travel, I seem to always meet, not always, but a good majority of time, I seem to connect with great people, whether it be the Uber driver or any stranger, or even people I get, the few people I get along with at work, right? There's always great conversation about spirituality and God, and just trying to spread the word of God. But I wanted to share this story with you guys because random read was James. My Uber driver his name is James, and we both happen to have the same path into living how God wants us to live. And we're as far as I can gather, we're both still learning too. And that was just things like this are not accidents. And I'm pretty sure you people, you listeners out there, have had experiences like that too. So you have to pay attention to things like that. You may blow things off, small things like that, you may blow them off. But you have to understand, it's little things like that tells you that God is real. So you have to be more cognizant about things like that. No matter how small they are. They may seem like coincidences, but no, I don't think so. With the 40 some odd years that I've lived, through all my experience in life, and I know that it's just a speck of dust compared to some other people who's been through other things. I've learned that, I'm beginning to learn that picking up on these little things validates that God is real. There's connections out there, and we're all connected. We are all connected. Whether you believe that or not, we are connected. So I wanted to share that before I give my thoughts about this random read. Because I know you people out there have had the same experiences. So I'm just telling you, don't brush those experiences off, because those are the little things. Those little things let you know that God is real and we are all connected in some way. So it is for who of us to treat people the right way, we want to, it's the golden rule, right? Do unto others as they will do unto you, right? So enough of that rant. I just wanted to start it off with that because I thought that random read was not random at all. That was actually God saying, okay, this is what you're picking today. So now the first thing I can gather with this is God is telling me, he's saying, hey, you need to start praying more often, because when it comes to prayer, I'm horrible at it. I'm not as consistent as I should be. And I know a big chunk of that is because of I'm not trying to make excuses, but I will make an excuse, even though I shouldn't. Life, right? Things that we do in life. And I have a lot on my plate. I'm trying to build this channel, and I'm doing multiple things to build it, and it's keeping me busy, and then I travel back and forth to a job that it destroys me from inside. Yeah, it pays well, but you know what? It's like I said about the last show about letting go of worldly things. It's beginning to turn my head that all these things that we were programmed to do, as far as go to school, get a job, and all that stuff, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's not real. I'm beginning to find that out. And I'm beginning to, this is just a suspicion, okay? I'm beginning to suspect that in the near future, this thing that we have of a job and stuff, it's not going to matter. It really isn't, because the signs are out there that everything has come into fruition from the Bible. Many things. But I'll save that discussion for after, this take on my random read. But the take on my random read today is, the first off, like I said, God's telling me, hey, you need to start praying more often. And I do. I really do. I admit to that fault, and I need to get on that, and I will fit that in on my daily. Even if it's just a few seconds or a few minutes, rather, because I'm not just going to, tell God, hey, what's up, and then split. I'm going to have a deep conversation with God. And the way I pray is I talk to him. Okay, I don't do this Our Father and Hail Mary stuff. I don't do that. I have a discussion with him. And my take on prayer is, it's not a time where you're asking God for things. As far as materialistic things, you don't ask him for things, because it's not God's responsibility to provide us with materialistic things, as far as money and things of that nature. But God has promised that he will provide for us, right? And when he says that he provides for us, it doesn't necessarily mean that here's a wad of cash, go take care of what it's not that. It's not that. He will open doors of opportunity for you to work for what you need to work for. He will open the doors, as he has opened doors for me so far. And I continue to pray that he gives me opportunities for me to grow this, especially to do his work, I pray for protection, of course. Because we are living in this is a spiritual war that we're going through right now. So I use prayer as a means to ask the Lord for protection, for his armor to cover me from evil. I also ask for guidance, because I want to be able to make the right decisions. I want to be able to hear his voice telling me, yes, this is where I want you to go. I don't want to have to make a decision based on my needs or my mind. I have to make the decision based on what is it what decision can I make in order for me to do more of God's work. So I'm beginning to make decisions in that sense. And in order for me to make the right decisions, I ask for God's guidance. And He will guide you. He will. Your faith has to be strong, of course. You can't just, you can't be a weekend faith person, you know? The only time you have faith is when you go to church. I don't even go to church. I have my opinions about churches. I think that a church is it's a good place to go to connect with people who know more about Scripture, who can explain more to people out there about God. Because I'm still learning. I haven't been to church, but there have been people that I have connected with who know more than I do. So for me personally, I don't necessarily think going to a church is necessary, because Jesus always told us that we are the church. I just have to make connections with people who know more about God and know more about Scripture than I do. So that's another take on that as far as prayer goes. Another thing about prayer, I think, is we give thanks. We praise God. Because everything that we've been blessed with came from Him. Everything. And I've said time and time before, my family is my gold. My family is my foundation. And believe me, growing up in a broken home put perspectives onto my brain. And I promised when I grew, when I was a kid, I promised if I've ever had a family that I would never do that to my family. And yes, I've, just like everyone else, we do things as we were younger, and we make so many mistakes, and we learn, well, hopefully we'll learn from them. But, yeah, I think prayer is a time where you're giving thanks to what you have. And sometimes the things that you have may be more important than you think. Because a lot of people will take their families for granted. A lot. I don't ever take my family for granted. And I work hard for them. So, prayer, that's first and foremost. It's telling me that I have to pray more, and I'm giving you my reasons why we have to pray. Another thing that I can gather from this particular passage, prayer avails much. Okay? Prayer is a very powerful thing. Very powerful. You don't have a clue of how powerful prayer can be. I was going through things last year, and prayer got me through things. Prayer gave me a path. Prayer gave me guidance. Prayer gave me opportunity. It's very powerful. And I have to say, prayer has protected me multiple times, especially after I used to get attacked by, and I believe that there's a spiritual realm. Okay. You believe what you believe, but for me, I believe that there is spiritual realm, and I believe that there are evil spirits out there that try to attack us on a daily. Okay. Now, there were multiple times where I felt evilness trying to get me, especially after being baptized. I felt that the attacks spiritually were getting even more blatant and more powerful. But it doesn't faze me because I know God's got my back. I know God's got my back. And I tell you, sometimes when I'm lying down on my bed and you get that feeling of not being able to breathe, or you feel some sense of evilness, like this sense, just a sense of evil presence. If I can't speak, my mind speaks for me. And every time I mention God's name and Jesus' name, it stops. And I have a feeling that this evil presence or these evil spirits, they know that God has put this task upon me to spread the word. And what they're doing is they're trying to scare me. But it's not working. And I won't be afraid of that. So, prayer, very powerful. Very powerful. And like I said, prayer is not a time where you ask God for things, because that's not the way it works. We have to work for what we get. And when we pray, like I said, it's a time to ask for God for opportunities, because we have to work on that ourselves. So that's my take on that was a long one. But I thought that this was important to share with people. So that was my take on the book of James, chapter 5, verses 13 through 20. And like I said, it was great meeting my Uber driver James, and it was not coincidence at all. This validates that this is not coincidence at all, and this should validate to you people. And I'm sharing this story, and I'm not making things up here. I'm saying that there's stamps here that God is validating that He's real, and I know He's real, because my faith is that strong in God, only because of the things that have happened to me in the past year, just 1 year, and it's been amazing. So there's the take on the prayer. So for tonight's cocktail, we are going to make the Gold Rush. And before I start making the cocktail, let me give a little history on the cocktail. So I found this article on punchdrink.com, and the title reads, How the Gold Rush Became a Modern Classic, and this was published on February 22nd of this year by Robert Simonson. A few years ago, T.J Siegal, a lifelong restaurant worker, was hunting for a job. It occurred to him that any future employer might first do a quick Google search of his name before calling him in for an interview. So he did a search himself to see what might pop up. All the results were about this drink, he says. I was very surprised. The drink in question is the Gold Rush, a simple whiskey sour variation that uses honey syrup instead of simple syrup. The cocktail was one of the early breakout successes at Milk and Honey, which was opened in 1999 by Siegal's childhood friend, Sasha Petrasky. Now served and enjoyed around the world, the Gold Rush is Siegal's main claim to fame. It's an achievement made all the more remarkable considering that Siegal is not primarily a bartender. In fact, he came up with the idea for the Gold Rush not while standing behind the bar at Milk and Honey, but while sitting at it sometime in 2000. I had finished a long shift at work in Midtown, recalls Siegal, and I sat down for a bourbon sour as I had many nights previous, on the rocks without egg or garnish. Petrasky told him about a honey syrup he had put together in order to make an old drink called the honeysuckle cocktail. It was basically a daiquiri made with honey. Siegal asked him to make his usual bourbon sour with that new honey syrup instead of the typical simple syrup. For the recipe, Petrasky employed his usual sour formula of 2 ounces of spirit, 1 ounce of juice, and 3/4 of an ounce of sweetener. The bourbon used that night was Knob Creek, but soon after, it was replaced by Elijah Craig, 12-year-old, which was then plentiful and cheap, and became the house bourbon at Milk and Honey. It was right the first time, recalls Siegal of the drink. He christened it the Gold Rush. I like names that bring a feeling or a thought or a chuckle, not names that have a hidden meaning or connection to the origin of the drink. Since Milk and Honey famously didn't have a menu, drink orders were arrived at through a conversation between server and customer. Soon, the Gold Rush was being suggested to whiskey lovers as a bartender's choice. By early 2002, it was a staple at the bar. It's hard to say that the Gold Rush was the first hit drink at Milk and Honey, recalls Kelvin Perez, an early barback at the bar, and the first person Petrasky hired. I remember the Mojito and the Queen's Park Swizzle and the Bee's Knees being the ones that customer asked for the most. But when TJ created the Gold Rush, it took off running. The drink got critical assist from Toby Maloney, the first bartender Petrasky hired. Maloney had a hand in fashioning the house honey syrup, which was not a simple equal parts affair. Instead, it was a rich syrup made of 3 parts of honey to 1 part water. My idea was to add as little water as possible to make it pourable while retaining the most honey-like qualities, explained Maloney. The result, as far as the Gold Rush was concerned, was a whiskey sour so silky and deeply flavored it amounted to an aha drink for many people, including bar owner Jim Meehan. When he drank one during his first visit to Milk and Honey in 2003, he was bowled over. It was a perfectly balanced bourbon sour, he recalls. Meehan would go on to make the Gold Rush at every subsequent bar he worked at. He also included the recipe in the widely distributed annually issued Mr. Boston Cocktail Guide, which he was editing at the time, and the PDT Cocktail Book, a best-selling recipe collection published in 2011. Petrasky, meanwhile, brought the Gold Rush to a number of bars he went to. Brought the Gold Rush to a number of bars he went on to open, according to Perez, including landmark taverns like Little Branch in Manhattan, Dutch Kills in Queens, and The Varnish in Los Angeles. Given such a wide platform, the popularity of the Gold Rush, likably and easy to replicate, ballooned rapidly. Siegal mostly heard about the drink's success secondhand through Petrasky. But one day, around 2012, while sitting at Danny Meyer's famed Union Square Cafe, he looked up at the chalkboard above the bar. Under a classic cocktails heading, the board listed the old-fashioned, Manhattan, Sazerac Martini, and finally, the Gold Rush. It was a little bit of a shock. It was a little bit shock. I'm sorry. Calm down. I was a little bit shocked, a little bit suspicious, and a little bit giddy, says Siegal. The Gold Rush would eventually be surpassed as Milk and Honey's most famous creation by the penicillin. Love that drink. One of my favorites. Another whiskey sour variation. But Siegal can take a little credit there as well, because the penicillin, made of blended Scotch, lemon juice, honey, ginger syrup, and a float of peated Scotch. Ooh, I love that. Created by Sam Ross in 2005, was partly inspired by the Gold Rush. Siegal, in turn, looked at what Ross had done and spun off his own twist. The Ginger Gold Rush that became popular in its own right. At Attaboy, the cultural successor to Milk and Honey co-owned by Ross, the Gold Rush is still popular. Sometimes the drink is prepared using the Regal Shake, a technique invented by bartender Theo Lieberman, who found it work exceptionally well for drinks featuring honey. Other times it's modified with allspice, dram, or seasonal fruit. Such innovations, however, are not for Meehan. who remains devoted to the original cocktail that opened his eyes so many years ago. I feel like honoring this drink to its fullest is to leave it alone, he says. For me, any change would be like spiking the communion wine. This one, as it is sacred for me. Again, that was from punchdrink.com, which was published in February 22nd of this year, written by Robert Simonson. Now, the moment that you guys have been waiting for. We are going to make a creation of our own version of the Gold Rush. So I have with me, for the bourbon we're using tonight, is going to be Mitker's Small Batch Bourbon. And if you have not had any kind of Mitker's bourbon at all, you can never go wrong with any of them. I am not a big rye fan, but they have a really good rye. So the recipe calls for 2.5 ounces of bourbon, and we're going to change this up because I didn't drink last week. So we're going to bump it up to 2.5 ounces of bourbon. So let's pour. One ounce. 2 ounce. Half ounce. Now, before I started the show, I've already poured in some honey syrup, only because I'm in a rush to make this drink, and I didn't have the time to make a whole batch of honey syrup. So what I did was I put in, it's going to be about an ounce of honey syrup that I poured in here. So I've already put the honey syrup in there. Next is going to be 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice, which is what I've already pre-squeezed and put in a bottle, just to make things easier for me, because lemon juice is a very common thing that I use for making cocktails. Okay, I've poured that in there. Now, we're going to put ice into our shaker. And it says to do the Regal shake. Now, I'm just going to shake it the way I usually shake it. Here we go. All right. Now I'm going to dump the ice and water out of my pre-chilled rocks glass. I'm going to go ahead and add ice into the glass. I got 4 cubes of ice in there. And now, we're getting really close to this thing. Now, for the pour. Man, the name for this drink, the Gold Rush, matches so perfectly with the color that it looks like. It's very beautiful, the color. It's a dark yellowish color. Man, this thing smells good already. Now, for the moment of truth, the taste. Oh my goodness. again. Man. Now I know why this drink was popular. Ooh, this is good. So, bourbon is already a sweet type of alcohol to begin with. Bourbon is in the whiskey family. It is a very sweet alcohol, like I said. Now, when you add honey into the mix, it takes the sweetness to another level. More sweeter than sugar or simple syrup. More sweeter than pancake syrup, which sometimes I use when I make old fashions. It's a game changer when you do use pancake syrup as your sweetener for your old fashions. It really is a game changer. But thing about honey is that it's the glycemic level is not as high as sugar, but yet, man, it puts a really good sweet part of this drink. It makes it nice. It's almost a good summer drink. Oh, so refreshing. And with the lemon, perfect. And I can see how it's a spin-off of the penicillin, which is one of my favorite cocktails. So, man, Mr. Siegal, you have made a name for yourself for a great cocktail. Here's to you, my friend. This is for the Gold Rush. Cheers. And on to the show we go. So today I have this article, and it comes from the New York Post opinion editorial. This one was written on March 18th. And this one was by the Post editorial board. The title reads, "No sin is ever forgiven in the brave new woke world." Woke. Cancel culture just proved itself more powerful than the devil in Prada herself. Anna Wintour, years-old tweet you made as a foolish, ignorant teen and later profusely apologized for, mean you can't be trusted as editor of Teen Vogue. Alexi McCammon, deemed in 2019 the Emerging Journalist of the Year by the National Association of Black Journalists, and supported by Wintour and the rest of the top Condé Nast management for the Teen Vogue job, won't be starting next week as editor-in-chief of the fashion and lifestyle magazine after a staff rebellion over offensive remarks posted in 2011. She was a freshman in college then, and when they surfaced 2 years back, she apologized and deleted the tweets. She apologized again this month after a couple dozen Teen Vogue staffers erupted when she was named their new boss. But in this world the left has created there is no path to forgiveness. There is no redemption. There is only smug dismissal. Childhood idiocy makes you a pariah for life. And this misbegotten ideology carries such weight that junior staffers can carry the day against top management. Oh, geez. Oh, do I have a lot to say about this thing? Not just when it comes to teen fashion mags either. The same dynamic has now purged multiple senior figures at the New York Times. All the old liberals are too scared to cross the radical kids. Ooh. Oh boy. Let me finish this. But we suspect that radical kids will come to hate the world they created. The cancel monsters will find that no one is pure enough and no one can change. They'll burn everyone and everything down. Now, oh boy, where do I start with this? first off, we were all young at one point, right? And I'm talking to the older crowd here. We were all young at one point. We all thought we knew everything, right? Especially when it came to our late teens and our early 20s into our mid 20s, then hopefully faded off into the late 20s into the 30s. But still, a lot of these millennials who are in their 30s, what do I say? I can't. And I'm not, no offense to the people who are of that generation, but some screws are missing. And yeah, a lot of the things that I may say today may offend, but you know what? If I offend, you either don't have to listen or grow thicker skin, or you can possibly learn from what I'm saying. So there's three things there. You have three options, right? Okay, so we were all young. We've done many, many stupid, idiotic things and said so many things that were very offensive to the standards that we live in now. Not to mention the fact that when I grew up, in the era that I grew up at least, there were a lot of comedy stuff that were offensive to people of the days that we're living now. But it was all in comedy. And I don't know what happened between then and now. I don't know how this whole thing changed. To be honest, if we were to watch the Chappelle Show now, there you go. People would be butthurt. I can even take it back to watching Eddie Murphy Delirious. People will absolutely lose their mind into what he was saying now. If he was to say the same things now, oh man, the whole woke culture is going to cancel you out. And this is what liberals do. They think they're the most righteous people. You know what? There is nobody. The only righteousness that there is God. Get that through your skull. We are all with imperfections. That's because that's what happened after Eve ate from the forbidden tree. That's what happened. We became imperfect. We were with imperfection rather. Not we were imperfect, but we came with imperfections. So it's you can't say anything anymore. That's the world that we live in now. You can't say anything anymore. Just the other week at work, we have to do this sexual harassment training, air quotes. And when I was watching this video, anything you do, even just looking at somebody of the opposite sex, offends people. It's almost as if, why do we even why do we even have to work now? Because we can, just by looking at somebody or just by saying hello to somebody, is going to be deemed as sexual harassment. That is crazy. We go by how people feel. I don't know what got lost in between when I was a kid to now. I don't know what got lost. I grew up in a great era. It was one of the coolest era, the 80s and the 90s. Especially when it came to music. Ooh, the 90s. The 90s. Oh, I loved every genre in the 90s. Every genre. The 80s had really cool music too, I tell you. Even the music. What happened to the music? What happened? In the early 2000s, it started going downhill. When I noticed it, it was when this thing called auto-tune came out. It just destroyed everything. It destroyed everything. Because now everybody's using this robotic box tone for whatever they're rapping or singing or whatever. Back in the 90s, when hip hop was at its prime in the 90s, you can tell what rapper was who, because they had a certain tone, they had a certain tone of voice, they had this certain passion of how they rapped. You knew who they were. You felt the power in that voice. Greatest of all time, in my opinion, Tupac. Ooh, Tupac. You talk about a guy who wrote all of his own rap. Came from the soul. You knew everything he said he meant. He meant all that. And when he was rapping, you can hear the passion from him. One of the more underrated lyricists, and one of my favorites, Nas. Whew. Another one. Smooth, cool cat. And you knew who he was when he was rapping. Huh. You knew. And they didn't need these dumb sound effects for their voices. And part of that was the connecting to people, you know? Connecting to people. Especially people who had struggles in their life. Not to people who lived a very cush and easy life, but people who actually lived the hard life in the streets, going through rough things. You felt that connection, and a lot of it had to do with their voice, their actual voice. And quite honestly, the music that they were rapping about back then, especially in the early 90s, there was a lot of positivity in the rap that was coming out. A lot of positivity in the early 90s. I remember. They were spreading good messages. And they were, they had beats that you could dance to too. And the things that they rapped about, you would remember them. But now, it's all about dumbing down people. It's all about negativity. It's all about materialistic things of this world. It's all about sex with no love. No love at all. Just promiscuity. It's all about selling your soul to the devil. And quite honestly, I know a lot of people who have already gone beyond the point of even to come back. But God is always going to accept people to come back no matter what. But I'll stick to the topic here. Why is it that now we are living in a time now where things that you may have done, things that you may have said when you were younger and dumber, are going to affect you now that you've grown and matured? Supposed to be matured, right? This woke culture, this new type of liberalism has gone off the wall into making, they proclaim to be the judges of judging people. Who are they? Who in their right mind made them the judges of people? Right? Oh man, especially these kids. Ooh. These kids. And you know what? It's not the kids' fault. It's the parents' fault. It's the parents' fault for letting this go. They've allowed this. And now you have kids like Greta Thunberg telling us about what we should do in order to save the planet. This kid who has not even lived a full life of even learning anything, and possibly just learning things through a book as opposed to going through struggles and learning from struggles. How have we allowed this? How have you as a parent allowed your kids to become like this? We as parents go through life growing up, facing experiences, going through struggles, learning stuff. And having to go through all that lesson in life, give that up, and let our kids dictate how we should live? How is that? How backwards is that? Listen to what I just said, okay? And I'll say it again. How have you as a parent grown up with many experiences, gone through struggle, learned from those struggles, and have to come back raising kids, letting our kids tell us how to live our lives? Listen to what I just said. How is that even logical? How? It's laziness in the part of parenting. That's what that is. Kids are not pets. They're supposed to be the future. They're supposed to be the future of running this whole world, right? What happened to the great values that we teach? Respect, manners. Whatever happened to the basics of that? We're all caught up. We are all caught up in this thing called life. And as you let your kids, because your kids want to talk to you and you don't want to talk to your kids, you just allow them to do whatever they want by giving them video games. You allow them to, let them play on phones, give them iPads, give them laptops, give them computers, so then they won't bother you. You have to have that relationship with your child. You need to talk to your child. Your child needs to know that there's a pecking order when it comes to between the parent and the kid. They need to know that they're on the bottom part of the totem pole. They're the trainee. You're the trainer. And that's how, and that's how we wouldn't have these problems with cops nowadays. Between the public and the cops. Is because if kids knew anything about respecting authority, and I'm not talking about authority as far as cops. I'm talking about authority as far as child and parent. That's the first step. Child and parent authority. That's the first step of respect they should learn. And from that, they branch off to other things. Now, if that problem was fixed, if there was strong parenting, if there was a complete home, problems wouldn't arise with cops and the general public. But we've allowed this to happen. Being lazy with our kids, thinking that our kids will figure it out. Yes, I agree. They would figure life out on their own, but But when they are very young, they need guidance. You can't just let kids figure it out when they're 8, 7, 6. You don't do that. You guide them. This is what happens when you let kids go out of control. And on top of that, you have these schools teaching these kids, I shouldn't say teaching, brainwashing these kids into thinking that they can do whatever they want with no repercussions at all. Liberalism, right? Liberalism. In my opinion, I think liberalism is of the devil. It's evil. Because look what liberalism has done to this country. Taken away God. Look at the quality of education we have. Look at the quality of these people who have grown into their 30s because of liberalism. Because of no direction. Right? Just as long as your kid goes to school and get good grades in what? What's the quality of that education? What is it that they're learning? What is it? What is it? Are you even paying attention to what your kids are learning? Does a letter grade even matter? How about quality? What's the quality? What are they learning? Are they learning the truth, or are they brainwashed into thinking that America was all evil? I got news for you people out there who are liberal. It's time for you to wake up, because the whole world had evilness into them. Everywhere you went. Right? Every tribe out there, every tribe that was stronger than the next always took from them. That's the way the world was. It's always been that way since the beginning of time. And it doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. It's always been like that. And it's still going on. It really is. By evil people, of course. So what I'm trying to get at here with this article that I read is, it starts when these people are kids. It starts like you got to do correct parenting, man. You have to be there all the time. That's part of being a parent. You chose to procreate at that time. Yeah, it felt good, didn't it? It felt good. But were you even thinking of what you were getting yourself? Choice of words here. Did you even think about what you were getting into? My choice of words, right? But seriously, did you even think about what repercussions were going to happen if you yourself did not have a good base? I had to figure out a lot of things when I was young on my own. And of course, my mom when she was there, she was good. Like she set me straight. And I came from old school Asian background. So I got a lot of whooping when I deserved it. And believe me, I wasn't an easy kid to raise, especially let alone a single mother. I was not an easy kid to raise at all. On top of the problems that came with kids that grow up in a single parent home. But through experiences, of course, and also through meeting certain people in my life, I was able to find my way through and get to where I'm at right now, especially with my mindset. A big part of that is my wife. The choice, the person I chose as my wife. She taught me how to take myself out of my own shoes and imagine to go into other people's shoes and think about how they would feel. And I'm grateful for that. She matured me a lot. It all starts in the home, parenting. And you know what? You got to be there all the time. You got to. You have to. Because if you're not, man, your kids are going to grow up to be all messed up. You have to give them the guidance. You got to give them the basics. Respect, manners. I mean, what's so hard about that? It's just repetition. You just repeat over and over again. Yeah, it gets kind of irritating. Yeah, you sound like what my mom used to tell me, I sound like a broken record. But that's part of parenting. That's part of the responsibility you take when you have sex, and when that moment comes where the choice of words again. Well, when that moment happens, right? Another thing too, another angle to this article, right, is how the hell have we become weak? How have we become so weak with words? Yet, words are powerful. Yes, they are. They sure are. And right now is a prime example of how we got here because of words. But it's the context of the words, right? It's what your intention is using those words as well. I mean, when I grew up, when I was a kid, me and my friends used to call each other fags. And not in an offensive way. It was just one of those things that you said when you were growing up, because you guys are buddies, and you just call them that if they're kind of wimpy or whatever. But now you say something like that, and it sticks with you forever. It sticks with you forever. And people will look back and say, "Oh, he's homophobic because he said this word." I'm like, "No, dude, it's the context of how I said it. It's my intention of the use of the word." I have no qualms about homosexuals. I don't. Gay guys, lesbians, I don't care. I may not agree with that lifestyle, but I am not going to judge you. I'm not going to judge you. That's not for me to do to you. God will be the one to judge you. When it's time for you to go, and when it's time for you to answer those questions, you're going to have to answer to him. And I'm not saying that in a way where I'm telling you that you're bad. I'm just saying that everything that we do in this earth, we're going to have to answer to. Everybody has to. I'm going to have to answer to a lot of things when I get up there. Am I scared? Of course I am, because I'm imperfect. I'm not imperfect. I'm with imperfection. I think there's a difference there of being imperfect and having imperfections, because we all have imperfections, right? Imperfect is like saying that there's a person out there who is perfect, and I don't know. Everybody has imperfections. But we have to get away from this. This is dangerous. This is dangerous. As much as you people don't think it is, it really is. Because what you may have said, they can go back as to the way this is going. Even if you said something when you were, I don't know, elementary school, they're going to ding you for that. Even something you said when you were 11 or 12 years. I mean, come on. This is the path that we're going to if we continue with this stupid thing. This stupid cancel culture. This stupid thing of being weak. Whatever happened to sticks and stones? What happened to that? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Remember that? I remember that. People used to talk a whole bunch about me when I was growing up. A lot of people didn't like me. But I've learned to just not care about it. Don't care about it. I don't care about it. Even now, when people talk whatever about, I don't care. I don't care. Talk all you want. It's one thing to talk behind my back and to say into a computer screen and text and all these social media outlets. It's easy. It's easy to say anything. Are they going to be willing to say that in front of your face though? That's the thing. But we definitely are tapping into something very, I mean, it's not even a tap into it. We've gotten there. We're there, right? We're there with this whole thing about saying things when you were younger can affect you as you get older. And who knows, maybe what I'm saying now may affect me for work, but I don't care. I don't. Let them think that they have power over me. I don't care. Because at the end of all this, you may destroy somebody in this earth, but when we all go up to judgment, you're going to have a harsher judgment than myself. Just remember that. I'm not worried about it. I'm in Team God. I mean, what team do you want to be in? But this is destroying people. And a lot of it needs to start at the home with parenting. That's your foundation right there. Like the quality of parenting, that's the foundation of everything. That's the foundation of how a seed grows to be a great tree or a rotten tree. What kind of fruit are you going to bear when you get older? Are you going to bear great food or fruits, or are you going to bear rotten fruits? You need to have a very strong family with a great belief system. And the parents need to follow up on whatever punishment that is needed in order for your seed to grow the right way. But I see a lot of laziness nowadays. Parents are too scared to discipline their kids when need be. Because kids need to know for everything that they do wrong. Sure, you get mad once, twice about one different thing, but when they continue to do the same thing over and over again, it's time to change the means of punishment, right? So I'm a big proponent of corporal punishment when need be. But of course, you have to differentiate the line of abuse and corporal punishment. Are you trying to get your word across, or are you trying to get that lesson taught, or are you to the point where you're just beating the kid just to beat the kid? That's not the way it should work. You have to give reason into why you're doing it, and you have to stand the line when you're doing corporal punishment. You can't go overboard. You just can't, because at that point it becomes abuse. So that's all I got today. Short show. I went off really long on that Bible read though, because I wanted to share that experience with you guys. I think that was like one of the highlights. That's going to be like one of the highlights of my life, to be honest. it was awesome meeting James. It was awesome randomly picking James out of the book. But this whole thing with this what you say as a young person affects you when you're older. Yeah. We don't want to be there. Even though we're there already, we need to reverse this. We need to we need to put the car in reverse, and we need to rethink this, because everybody has said something or has done something that is stupid and immature. Everybody. And if you say you haven't, you're lying. You are lying. It's a very dangerous thing that to really immerse ourselves in. Remember, the things that we do or say, you always have to look at the intent, right? Or the content of what they mean. Man, I'll give a good comparison to this. Coming to America, the movie, the first one, my favorite movie of all time, my absolute favorite movie of all time. Oh, I loved everything. I love that movie. Even if there was an offensive part, I loved it because it was funny. It was hilarious. There was no, like, I totally got what they meant, right? And then to see the new one, I didn't even finish it because I was like, dude, this is no. They've completely effed up. Now I can't even go back to watch the first one because the second one kind of ruined it too. Because you had Akeem, who was the Prince of Zamunda, right? He did a very bold thing into coming from Zamunda, and I'm talking about the movie, okay? He comes from Zamunda, goes to America because he wants to find the right woman for him to marry. He wants to fall in love. He's going out of the traditions of, his country, and he's going against the grain of what his dad has proposed for him already, which is a fixed marriage. So he's being bold, like he's being manly and saying, no, this is my life. I'm gonna make decisions for myself. So I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna do what I want, right? So he goes off. He finds the girl that he falls in love with, and bam, absolute, great love story. On top of that, in between that, there was just so many comedic parts of the movie. But when I was watching part 2, man, I was hoping to see the same Akeem, who stood up to his dad, who was manly about things, and no, they didn't portray him as that. They portrayed Akeem as a man with no balls who had all his daughters and his wife just absolutely, just made him weak. And then his so-called son that he finds turns out to be a weak guy as well. I didn't like that. It was a bunch of SJW stuff going on in the second one. And now looking back, I wish they'd never made a second one because the first one was absolute memory. And now that kind of diminished the first one because the second one was that bad. So, anyways, that's all I got for today. And hopefully you guys catch me again. Hopefully we can grow this channel bigger. I'm working on selling merchandise, so be on the lookout for that. I got a lot of cool things going. I mean, I eventually want to be selling like bourbon barrels with my logo on them, if you guys are interested in that, or even having like whiskey glasses with my logo on them. Be on the lookout for those. On top of having shirts and hoodies and hats and mugs or whatever, be on the lookout, because I think these products are going to be really cool. So, as I end every cast, and it was just a catchphrase that I just got after the first one and just went with it. With that being said,
the bar is now closed.
I can't help but wonder if I'm under a spell. It's more than a passing notion. I've never fallen with such devotion. I can't help but wonder if it's only a dream. Am I naive or can I believe that things are really as they seem? Can anyone explain how to understand what's true? I know I just can't tame it. Whenever I'm with you, I can't help but wonder if you wonder about me. 'Cause lately I can't help but wonder how wonderful this might be. Can anyone explain it? How to understand what's true? I know I just can't take it. Whenever I'm with you, but wonder if you wonder about me. 'Cause lately I can't help but wonder I can't help but wonder how